Welcome to episode 63 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. For the world is hollow, and I have touched the sky.
In this week's episode, the Enterprise discovers a ship designed to look like an asteroid from the outside and a planet on the inside. It is occupied by people who believe they are living on a real world. But when McCoy chooses to remain behind and marry the High Priestess, Kirk and Spock are left with a difficult choice. Can they protect the world and save their friend? Or is it time to face up to life without their doctor?
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad, Gerry. How are you today?
I'm good. I hope everyone is listening to us because we speak the truth.
Well, they've been warned. This was their first transgression.
Different episode this week.
I liked this week's episode.
It was good.
In fact, I thought it was an excellent episode. It's good to get a McCoy-focused show.
It was, yeah. What are people talking about season 3 being terrible?
It's not terrible. It's phenomenal.
I think it actually is legitimately the best we've had.
So far.
Wait
for season 4. Might be waiting a while.
What's been happening? Anything interesting?
Nothing too dramatic.
Got a new car, haven't you?
I do.
Enjoying it?
It runs on batteries.
Wow.
It's the future. It's arrived, finally.
Duracells?
Something like that, yeah.
Enjoying the football?
No.
As we record, we are awaiting the final. We've saw the two teams. Well done, England. Well done, Italy.
Also Brazil and Argentina through to the final of the Copa America.
We are, yes.
You know, Argentina haven't won anything for 28 years.
They're not very good.
Hopefully they win one this week.
Aside from Maradona, who carried them.
Yeah, they've won nothing since he stopped playing.
No. That's why he's better than Messi.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
He's not just a stat accumulator.
No. Anyway.
Moving on swiftly, shall we get into this episode?
Let's crack on. On the bridge, a dramatic opening with an alarm sounding as 6 old-fashioned missiles are targeted towards the Enterprise, but at sub-light speed, so it's not a problem.
No big drama. Spock is in the captain's chair for now.
Yeah. There are no related communications, and so Sulu is told to prepare the phasers, and Chekhov is told to locate the missile's origin.
Yes, Kirk arrives on the bridge, issues those orders, and not finding any more information, destroys the missiles and heads off at Warp 3 to the point of origin. Down
in sickbay, McCoy and Chapel, they're arguing as we meet them. She seems quite distressed about something.
Yeah, she's in a heightened state. He is angrily telling her to leave, but she insists that having called the captain, she's going to wait until he arrives.
And when he does, McCoy takes a softer tone and asks her to leave and promises he will give Kirk a full and honest report.
So she does leave.
Yeah, reluctantly. Kirk is obviously intrigued by the scene that he witnessed and asks what it's all about. So, what does McCoy initially tell him?
Well, he reports that all the crew physicals have been completed and the test results are in.
There's bad news for one person.
Just one person. Everybody else is fine.
What's the matter with this one person?
He's got xenopolycythemia.
I've noted a terminal illness. I'm not going there. There's no cure. And the person has 1 year to live.
That's unfortunate.
So a worried Kirk obviously asks, who is it?
Yeah, and you assume maybe he's going to say it's Kirk.
Yeah.
That would be the obvious setup. We've had that before. But no, it's the chief medical officer.
McCoy himself.
So he's got one request for Kirk.
What's that?
Not to tell anyone. And then we get the credits.
But is it more than one request? Is it not to tell and let him continue to work?
Well, he says by not telling anyone that gives him the best chance to work out the rest of his life. I'm not sure Kirk wants a doctor who's about to die, though.
No, we'll get to this. Now, I noted here at this point, this, again, we've mentioned this before, it's not an arc-type show, no. But with a year to go, it'd have been good. I mean, I'm assuming, as I'm writing these notes, that they'll find the solution by the end of the episode. But it would have been good. This could have been played out over a number of episodes. Yeah,
but the problem you have is if you miss one, it's not repeated for 3 years, you don't know what happened. Yeah. Why is McCoy suddenly sick? What's going on?
Sure.
As opposed to now where it's all bingeable.
True. Yeah, credits. Then a captain's log, 5476.3. Kirk has ignored this request and told Starfleet and asked for a replacement.
Immediate replacement.
Deary me. You think that... Now, I can sort of understand Kirk's thinking. Perhaps he's doing it... He thinks it's in the best interest of his friend, and also he does need someone who can be relied upon.
Well, he's done a 5-year mission, so he needs someone...
Sure, but you should have had that chat with McCoy.
Well, maybe he did. We just didn't see it. Of course, I'll have to tell Starfleet. Well, it'll be in these law. McCoy will have recorded it, so Starfleet will have access to the information.
Sure. Back in the bridge, an asteroid 200 miles across is approaching on their screens.
Yep, Spock confirms they are at the right coordinates because Kirk thinks it's probably just a mistake by Chekhov.
And he is told to probe it. And he has some very interesting and unusual data to report.
Typical asteroid chemically.
Quite the leap from Kirk there.
Yeah.
It's travelling in a certain direction. Oh, it must be a spaceship. Okay.
It couldn't be some kind of comet type occurrence.
Yeah.
No.
In any case, we find ourselves down in the transporter room. McCoy has invited himself on the trip, and although Kirk is reluctant, he insists.
I'm pretty sure Spock is picking up on this interaction.
Yeah. I mean,
You
why?
would expect so.
Yeah, because he's normally there. There's no reason for Kirk not to want him.
No, and also Chapel was there when they arrived, giving him a bit of a pep talk.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, don't give up. Yeah, great, thanks, nurse.
I'll always love you.
And Spock.
Mainly Spock. Down on the asteroid, they appear into an environment that looks like the surface of a planet.
It's like the surface of every planet.
Yeah, the backlot. Covered in rocks, and they wonder why someone or something has made a spaceship look like this.
Yeah, they go wandering around and... Oh, first of all, Kirk sends an unnecessary message to Scotty to say they're fine, which they never do.
No, and why, after 3 seconds, yep, we're here, we're fine. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Don't jump to conclusions.
As they explore, they see these sort of large tubes, a bit like on Mario.
Exactly, yeah, big pink cylinders with no obvious openings.
McCoy notes that Spock had not identified any life forms, but says there seems to be some form of construction going on here.
Yeah, but Spock tells him that the thing is over 10,000 years old, and there still is no life forms.
Yeah, but that declaration is immediately rendered moot as 2 of the tubes lift up to reveal openings and aggressive men in plaid suits leap out and attack them.
Yeah, you say moot, it makes him look like a fool.
It does.
There's definitely no life forms.
No life forms.
Ta-da! Yeah, and these chaps with the hats and the swords who attack them are followed by a more serene, glamorous looking woman.
She kind of glides around and watches what's going on.
The gang start to get the upper hand, but it appears that the woman has some sort of psychic power as she stops McCoy and the others overpower Kirk and Spock.
They are relieved of their phasers and communicators, as always, and they're asked whether these are weapons.
But Kirk is more interested in tending to McCoy, who is lying unconscious. She allows this, so Kirk gets him up straight away. He's been unconscious, he's not well.
Sit up!
Sit up, stand up right now! Are you okay?
I'm not going to preserve your spinal position or anything. No, up on your feet.
And she then introduces herself as Natira, the high priestess of the people, and she welcomes them to Yonada.
Yes, not Yolanda, as I wrote many times in my notes.
I think I did that as well. I think it might be Google autocorrecting.
It could be.
Yeah.
Kirk expresses a degree of misgiving at the welcome they've received from the people of Yonada.
Yeah, he's not very appreciative of this. And so she orders her guys to take them away, and they're walked over to the cylinder.
Yeah, they go down some stairs and she leads the way along a corridor, and all the other people there start kind of bowing and nodding their heads at her.
Yeah, we arrive at a door that has some sort of hieroglyphics on each side, which act as a lock. And she does this little move, which allows them to enter a worship room.
Yeah, some kind of prayer room. Multi-faith, probably.
No doubt.
The 3 men are instructed to kneel, which is then enforced by the guys standing behind them. And Natira herself steps onto this sort of platform and kneels in front of kind of like a rock, an obelisk maybe?
But it's an altar of some sort with an obelisk, in front of or on top of it, yeah.
With a sunburst logo.
Yeah. As she does this, McCoy and Kirk have worked out that the people have been on the spaceship for 10,000 years, and they don't realise that they in fact live on a planet. They get to these conclusions very quickly for my liking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they seem to think they're on a planet and not a ship.
Yeah.
But whether that's knowledge that's been forgotten or how it's been done, it's hard to say.
Natira then speaks to this sun object that she calls the oracle of the people and asks it about the communicators and phasers.
Yes. She then stands and turns to the three men who also stand. She asks who they are, and Kirk does the introduction.
Yeah, we should say that it doesn't speak, but a light emits from its centre, and this seems to answer her query somehow.
It's not referred to again.
No. Yeah, so Kirk introduces them, and when asked why they have come to their world, he responds that they come in friendship.
Yeah, we then hear a bolt of lightning, and the oracle itself speaks, telling them that they will, this is quite harsh, they will first learn what it means to be an enemy before they are taught what it means to be a friend. Then it electrocutes them, and they collapse unconscious. It's like, oh, you might be a friend, but I wanted to show this off for many years.
Straight away, it's like, going back to the football, it's like that, use a football analogy, it's like hit someone hard in the first tackle in midfield, let them know who the boss is. Or in boxing, give them that the first punch, make sure that they get your respect. You're the boss.
Some time must pass, and the three of them wake up, or at least two of them wake up in a nicely furnished room.
Yeah, a lounge of some sort.
Kirk's first up. He easily wakes Spock, but they don't find it so easy to wake McCoy. And then there's some really questionable reactions.
In what sense?
Well, first of all, Spock posits that McCoy must have had a larger shock, and Kirk says, no, it's definitely not that. And then Spock, I think, seems to be digging a bit when he says, nothing that happened here could have caused this. So at this point, Kirk clearly feels it's operationally important to fill Spock in on McCoy's condition, which he does. And it all seems like a complete overreaction when McCoy ultimately wakes up within a minute of them.
Yeah.
He was just out for literally a few seconds longer.
Yeah, just a bit. He's older than them, isn't he? So maybe,
There was no need for Kirk to spill all his secrets.
Maybe he wants to. Maybe he's waiting for an excuse to he feels obliged to let Spock know.
Yeah, taking the opportunity.
Yeah.
While McCoy's out of the picture.
So when he comes round, he tries to keep up the pretense that he's okay until he noticed that Spock has a caring hand on his arm, and at this Kirk confirms his deduction that he knows. I like that, to be fair. You didn't have to say too much. It was just the presence of the hand, supportive, and it said a lot, and I thought it was quite well done, to be honest.
It said a lot about the relationship between McCoy and Spock as well.
Sure.
And McCoy's not really annoyed. I mean, he's got a brief look of irritation, and then he's fine. Yeah.
Oh well, when you say he's fine, he insists he's okay, but he's clearly not 100% physically.
Sure.
Spock doesn't pursue it, and instead tells Kirk that letting the people know they are on a spaceship rather than a planet may violate the Prime Directive.
Kirk tells him to shut up. It's better to let them know and find out a solution rather than destroy the ship to save the people.
Now, that's a complete contradiction. We've argued this before. I've certainly made the point before that I can't remember what episode, but someone had Kirk in a position where he wouldn't attack because of the Prime Directive, and I said, no, that's nonsense. The preservation of life is more important. But
it's whatever the guy writing this week's episode thinks is the most important.
Yeah.
Anyway, Spock on this occasion agrees with Kirk's logic.
They are then interrupted by a doddery old man who looks like an old woman.
Yeah, it's like he's been inserted into this episode at random. There's no relation to anything that comes before.
He just walked onto the set. He's in something else. He's in an episode of Mannix or something like that. Anyway, he bows his head, then offers them some sort of herb to help them overcome their recent assault.
Yes, apparently it will strengthen them after feeling the power of the Oracle. And McCoy says it's an ancient herb derivative. At this point, the man realises they're not from Yonada, and despite it seeming to be painful for him, he explains that he climbed the mountains and touched the sky. He then says the episode title, collapses and dies with a red light flashing in his temple, before Kirk repeats the episode title, and between himself and Spock, they realise that climbing the mountains is forbidden because you reach the edge of the dome.
Fair enough, that pretty much sums that up.
A bit like Truman Show.
I think
he goes out into the sea.
I don't think I've actually watched that from start to finish. I missed it when it first came out, and
it's quite good.
Yeah.
It's worth watching.
There was another one that came out around the same sort of time.
Liar, liar.
Nah. Dumb and Dumber, no.
Is it just Jim Carrey movies you're talking about?
Is this when Natira re-enters.
Yeah, well, just before she enters, Kirk and Spock realise that the knowledge of the asteroid being a ship, it must be forbidden. How they realise that, I'm not entirely sure. Probably because the old man got killed for realising it.
Sure. So Natira comes in with food at this and asks what happened, to which Kirk pleads total ignorance.
It wasn't me.
He was old, I mean.
She says, please forgive him for being foolish, the old man, but he must have sinned or spoken evil, even if they are people who have served well for many years. They will be executed.
Yeah, I think she gets some guards to come and drag him away.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the body is removed and she notes that McCoy doesn't seem well. And this is the start of quite an uncomfortable relationship.
It's a bit odd, isn't it?
He insists he's fine, and so she tells them that the Oracle wants them to be treated as honoured guests and goes to help with the food which some other staff servants are preparing in the corner.
Yeah, and once she's gone, Kirk notes that she seems fond of McCoy, which Spock agrees with. McCoy tells him not to sound quite so surprised, but Kirk says her taste is questionable. However...
they've got a plan. They want to use him as some sort of bait. So he's to distract her while they go and snoop around.
We'll use her absurd feeling.
Unbelievable feelings, yeah. There's lust for McCoy, this elderly man.
So we'll use that. We'll distract her with your name, whatever.
Yeah. Shatner must have been this episode. He said, obviously this week I'll again do the honour, and the writer went, nah, it's kind of a bit every week you have to do this, Bill. Yep, well, I'm the captain. No, this week give DeForest a shot, eh?
It's in my contract.
His agent has been asking if he can.
All the kissing.
He loves it. He's not getting any younger. Let him have this one time where he has to use his sex to help out.
Tell you what we'll do. We let him do it, but we make it a joke.
Yes, we laugh at him. And in this episode, he's going to die. That wasn't... Yeah,
that's the only way I'll agree.
And he's to take a pay cut, and I want his money for the episode.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah.
Anyhow, Natira returns with the drinks, and Kirk raises a toast while Spock notes that they have a interest in this world.
Yeah, and there's at this point as well, there is a lingering eye contact between her and McCoy.
Yeah. She invites them to wander around and see what they can see.
So there was no need for this sort of subterfuge?
Well, she would stop them going to certain areas, presumably, and they want to find the control room.
Yeah.
So McCoy says he's too sick. He hangs back to distract her. And Kirk thanks her for looking after McCoy and leaves with Spock.
And so left alone, there is a sexual tension dripping out of her. But McCoy wants to get down to other business. She doesn't hang about, does she?
She doesn't, no. She has a sort of a look of a 1940s movie star to her. He makes the point that they're utter strangers.
Yeah, but like, effectively bottles it here.
Yeah.
She's like, stay with me and we'll bang. Like, we hardly know each other. You don't even know my first name. You keep calling me McCoy.
She says, yeah, part of the pleasure is learning each other. Let that rest in your heart. See you shortly, Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, he agrees. And she tells him to think about it. Okay. Out in the corridor.
Yeah, Spock and Kirk are just repeating stuff they said earlier.
Yeah, talk about how it is incredible that none of the people of the past realise they are living on a spaceship. Okay. Back in the lounge, Natira is telling McCoy of her belief that, in time, her people will reach a new, idyllic world. A world that she wants him to rule with her. Not really that idyllic, is it? You want some sort of dictator.
Yeah, some sort of oppressive leader.
And he is just arrived there and suddenly he's going to be a co-ruler. People are like, what are you talking about? I can accept you, just.
Yeah, but they've got chips in their heads. They have to do what they're told.
Okay.
It's like Bill Gates has put them there. Anyhow, McCoy asks how long until they reach this new world, and...
Yeah, he's getting horny for her and the thought of, oh, wait a second.
I could be a king.
I could be a king here. Kirk's always telling me what to do and I've got to put up with it, but wait a second. I get to bang her and be a king. Whoa, what is going on? Oh, no, I've only got a year to live.
Of all the days
Typical.
for the star. She tells him the Oracle says soon, and he won't have to be lonely any longer. But he says there's something he must tell her.
Yeah, what's that?
He'll be dead soon. She's sad, but hey, a year's better than nothing.
Yeah, she talks of how he makes her heart sing and that Even feeling like this for a day would make her happy. That's quite selfish, isn't it? She's only looking out for herself.
Yeah.
And she's willing to accept whatever the creators have in store for them. So they kiss, and McCoy, he seems unsure what's going on. He can't believe it. He's like, oh, is this happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Spock and Kirk find the Oracle room, and Spock knows where the ship has come from suddenly.
How?
He recognises the written language on the wall.
What type of language is it?
Fabrini.
Ah.
Which I think is a detergent of some kind.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kirk recalls that the Fabrini sun went nova and destroyed all its planets.
Spock expands and says that the Fabrini people lived underground towards the end of this to protect themselves, much like the people here who must be their descendants.
But then how did they get these people onto a ship without them knowing where they came from?
No, they didn't. They got the people 10,000 years ago onto the ship. So these people are here now.
So the first lot of people on the ship knew what it was but didn't tell their children. So only the first generation knew, and then when they died, it was a mystery to everybody else.
That's the point, yeah. I'm not sure how that would have
Why
worked.
would they do it that way? Just because they thought it'd be fun?
Because they're going somewhere, aren't they? So
How are we going to fill the next 10,000 years? Let's create a religion.
Yeah, you think it'd be essential to pass it. Listen, guys, don't worry, we're on a spaceship, but here's why.
Yeah. I suppose it's to remove a sense of hopelessness, because, we're many thousands of years from actually getting where we're going, so all you're doing is passing time.
That's
so
true.
Instead of that, you make you think this is life, so you have to live your life out.
Yeah, because for thousands of years, the people on board, it doesn't make any difference to them. They're just being here to live and die and procreate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, so just make it seem like this is life, so that they don't sort of just all quit halfway through the journey.
Yeah, mass suicide. Let's end this, there's no point.
We'll never get anywhere.
Uh-huh.
The engine's broke.
Yep.
Maybe. Anyhow, once the coast is clear, Spock, having read these symbols, waves his hand and opens the door.
And he then, inside, tells Kirk that the Oracle was initiated when Matira knelt on this little platform before they continued to look for a clue to the location of the actual control room.
Yes, but Spock says from reading the wall panels, there's nothing that suggests this is a spaceship or suggests where there might be controls.
Yeah, I think he says that the creators would have been considered gods before they spot a plaque that represents a star and the Fabrini solar system, which confirms this theory they have.
Well, it seems to confirm it, and they're certainly going to take that as evidence.
They hear a noise.
Yes, the door opens, so they hide behind the monolith that they're next to as Natira enters and kneels on the platform.
She tells it that she wishes McCoy to remain as her mate, and she awaits its decision.
She also awaits his decision, because it asks whether McCoy is up for this. And she says, well, I've asked him, but he never said yes or no.
He in principle, or it in principle, agrees, but says that he must become one of them and agree to have the instrument of obedience inserted into him. Now, we'll just leave
Let's
that.
just move on.
You sure?
She promises that she will teach him what he needs to know, but as she goes to leave, the Oracle zaps Kirk and Spock.
Yes, and asks her who these intruders are. She tells them, and the Oracle responds by claiming they have committed sacrilege, and she knows what she's got to do.
She accepts this and calls the guards.
Yes, to remove the fools who thought they could treat them like children. Now we're in Natira's quarters, where she is alone until a worried McCoy enters.
Well, that's that then.
Seems to be so.
And that's the end of the episode. So,
outside, they're back at the cylinders where McCoy hands over their devices and admits to Spock and Kirk that he will not be joining them.
Kirk's not happy with this.
No, he points out that this isn't a planet, it's a spaceship on a collision course. But a philosophical McCoy reminds him that he is on his own collision course.
Does he mean that he's about to die, or does he mean that he's in love?
Oh, both.
Spock says his decision is illogical.
Yeah, Kirk tries to pull rank.
He tries to order him as well, yeah. No matter what they say, he says he's not leaving, he's going to marry Natira.
And he says, listen, you do realise that we may have to destroy this if we can't get it to divert its course. And if you run it, well...
Yep, he's like, that's fine. So Spock contact, or it's Spock or Kirk, one of them contacts Scotty asking to beam up. And Scotty gets completely out of line.
Tell me about it.
Well, I think it's Kirk says 2 to beam up, and Scotty's like, well, what about McCoy? What's going on with McCoy? None of your business, Scotty.
No, do what you're told.
Just beam us up, yeah.
And so, yeah, they beam up or over, leaving I suppose, a disconcerted McCoy alone. So there's no goodbyes. There was no farewells, no shaking of hands.
I don't think any of them believe that this is the final encounter.
Well,
It could have been, but I don't think they believe it.
at least a handshake.
Yeah. We get to the... Well, maybe they've done weird handshakes in the future. That'd be good.
At least something. A fist pump.
Fist bump. Wee elbow bump. Down in the Oracle room, McCoy is kneeling on the platform, joining the people of Yonada.
Yeah, he has consented to have this instrument of obedience inserted up him. Now, he doesn't even know what it is at first. I would be asking, right, okay, this, you've got to do what to me? Like, tell me, where's it going? What size is it? How long has it got to be there for?
He saw the one on the old man flashing around in his head.
Yeah, we don't know how it got there. It might have had to travel.
Yeah, it could be alive.
Anything.
Anyway, Natira tells him he's now one with her people. She kneels beside him. And then I think there's some kind of exchange of vows. Is this them getting married, or is this still just a preliminary thing?
I think it's just a prelim.
They
Not
kiss anyway, again.
do.
They keep on kissing, it's boring.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Oracle now tells Natira to teach McCoy what he needs to know, so she takes him over to the obelisk type monolith thing where Kirk and Spock were zapped.
Is this this is after he has the thing inserted?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's painless. It takes a second.
A split second.
Yeah.
She touches 3 of the planets, which makes this thing open up and reveal a book that you're not allowed to read.
Yeah, and explains that it was given by the creators and is to be read when they reach the new world. She says that all the people know is that it tells of their existing world and why they must leave it, but she doesn't know why.
And she doesn't long for that knowledge either. McCoy asks her, and she says, it's enough to know it will be revealed when they arrive.
Mm-hmm. Captain's log 5476.4. The Enterprise is on a parallel course with Yonada, and because of the situation, it was imperative to speak with Starfleet Command. But
that's not going well.
Why not?
The Admiral basically says, just leave it, someone else will deal with that, you get back to your mission.
After the call, Spock tells the anguished Kirk that it's time to move on as an urgent call from McCoy is put through. So Spock's not trying very hard. It's like, yeah, well, that's a decision.
He made up his mind, time to go, been ordered.
It was like last week when Chekhov died. A few moments later in the bar.
Oh well.
But time you pulled yourself together. Let's what's done's done.
Yep. McCoy, though, is saying there may be a way to get this ship back on course.
What would that be?
Well, it doesn't say. Well, no, he does. We kind of get cut back and forth. So he says he's seen this book that contains all the knowledge of the creators, and if Spock can get to it, maybe he can dig out the information.
Yeah, but as he continues to talk, he's struck himself with the pain that we saw the old man receive, and is unable to give them the location of it.
Or respond to their shouts.
Before he collapses in agony as Natira enters to find him.
A short time later, I don't know how long, I think there's a bit of a cut here, Kirk and Spock beam down and she calls them the killers of their friend, which is not a very elegant phrase.
No, she says she'll have them executed. Kirk pulls her aside, and I thought there was a backhander coming up here.
Well, he was very aggressive with her right the way through it. This is quite uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. This allows Spock to help McCoy by removing the obedience device, which upsets Natira.
It's devastating for her. He is no longer one of their people.
However, Kirk states that he has been freed from the cruelty of their oracle, and they rush over as he comes around.
Yes, she urges him not to tell them about the book, but he does anyway.
She calls this sacrilege and tries to run and shouts for guards, but is stopped by Kirk.
He hauls her back and yells in her face.
She calms down slightly and says, listen, if you don't believe what I'm telling you, you'll accept any punishment. But he also promises that he understands their world.
At this point, she runs out of the room, and Kirk's not sure whether she's taken his message.
However, Spock notes that there are no guards detaining them now.
I quite enjoyed this. Spock just looks out the door nonchalantly and folks start waving at him. But he indicates, yes, the lack of guards means she probably understood something of what Kirk had to say.
We find ourselves in the Oracle room. Natira admits to it that she has listened to the non-believers and that she felt the the warning pain.
Yes, the oracle tells her she can only have the truth of Unada, not any other truth, and she must repent.
She begs to know the real truth of the world, even though the pain has started again, and she collapses to the ground.
As she collapses, Spock, Kirk and McCoy enter the room, and Natira wakes shortly thereafter in McCoy's arms, telling him that she believes them, and he removes her obedience instrument.
He then tells them where the book is, and as they stand up to retrieve it, they are warned by the Oracle that, again, this is sacrilege, but Kirk claims it is for the survival of the people of Unada.
You might question why the Oracle doesn't hit them with lightning bolts.
You might do that, yeah. Run out of battery or charge, you can only do it.
It decides, however, to execute them by making the room slightly warmer.
Yes, everything goes red, and Spock states that the temperature is 111 degrees and rising.
I think that's Fahrenheit.
Must be.
I don't know what that means in real money.
Who cares?
Anyway, McCoy directs Kirk to open the monolith, and he takes the book and hands it to Spock, who pleasingly confirms it's got an index.
Yeah, he's supposed to work out this plan in a matter of seconds. What are you talking about?
Okay, there's a chapter that says opening the control room.
Miraculously, he succeeds. And he opens the sun altar. It moves to reveal a hatch into a computer control. There's always computer control rooms, isn't there?
There is. So Spock goes through and turns off the heating, which is pleasing for everybody.
Yeah, again,
nobody seemed to have any sort of ill effects.
Not really, no, and he's immediately able to figure out how to do this. I mean, I can't work out a boiler.
No.
If something goes wrong, it's you're pressing buttons and switches and nothing happens.
Did anyone look at that the other day?
I get somebody else to figure.
Okay. It cools down anyway in the room quite quickly. McCoy declares that that's them fine. There will be no more problems. So Kirk goes off to help Spock.
At this point, Natira wakes up and McCoy tells her that the Oracle is no longer able to punish them, and his friends will send the ship to the land the creators intended.
Yeah, well, she asks if the course has been corrected, and he says yes, but it hasn't been. Through in the control room, they are still trying to correct the course, and Kirk notes that the tech is on a similar level to that aboard the Enterprise.
That is quite convenient, isn't it?
Very much so. Spock sees there's a problem with one of the tubes, and it should be an easy fix.
Back in the Oracle...
2-minute job.
Yeah. Back in the Oracle room, however, things have taken a turn for McCoy, as Natira has decided that she can't go with him, as she wants to honour the purpose of the creators and stay on Unada.
Well, that makes sense for their High Priestess to have this knowledge.
Yeah, it does. He decides he'll stay with her.
Yeah, but she realises that he won't actually do that, because he needs to search the universe for a cure.
Yeah, for him and all others, but mainly for him. Mostly.
She says he came to Unada with a grand mission to save her people, and having succeeded, she cannot then abandon them. And she hopes he will find them again in the future.
He says nothing to this, but they have a final embrace. It was quite touching.
Through in the control room, Spock fixes the course, and everything seems fine, and fortunately, they find intelligence files with the total knowledge of the Fabrini people, including their medical expertise.
So, I wonder if that will come in useful. Back in sickbay on the Enterprise, McCoy is now the patient, as Chapel gives him a shot on Spock's nod, as Kirk looks on.
Chapel then reports that McCoy is cured, and Spock confirms this.
Kirk has more good news.
Yes, the Unada is going to reach their new planet in 390 days, so they can swing by. That's not... You can't even arrange lunch without something going wrong.
No, there's no chance that's happening.
No. He offers McCoy the chance to say thank you personally on that occasion.
He means you can go back there and have a little bit of...
And that's it, off to another adventure.
Yeah, we end with a grin from McCoy, who is looking forward to getting laid in 392 days.
Did you think that was a bit convenient with the cure for his terminal illness there?
Very. It's like right at the very end, like, how do we need to resolve this?
Oh look, they found the cure!
Yeah, these people
hanging on the wall.
Get everything, yeah. Of course. Like I say, it would have been nice had we extended this predicament of McCoy's, but understand that that's not the style of the show, so can't really complain.
How would you compare the style of the Oracle to Landru in Return of the Archons? In terms of his methods, his objectives.
Yeah, well, I think was Landru not a bit more cynical, a bit more...
I think he was more of a permanent placement, wasn't he? He wanted folk to follow his teachings, but there wasn't this prospect of reaching somewhere else where he would step down.
No, so explain to me, I think I missed this, right? So what is this oracle?
It's a computer system that's been set up to run the ship.
But why does it want believers and non-believers?
It
What's
doesn't
this?
want any non-believers. It wants everyone to believe. So they don't question the knowledge, so they don't take it off course. If they realise they're in a spaceship, they might try and fly
Right.
somewhere else.
Okay, fine.
And the creators have identified this place that they're going to,
Yeah, sure.
assuming that nothing will change there in 10,000 years.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, but listen, I enjoyed this episode.
Oh yeah, season 3 does it again.
It does. Right
Pulls
up
it
there.
off, yeah.
These nerds telling everyone
Wrong
how
about
it's
everything.
wrong. Exactly.
Season 3, best season.
I think it is. And legitimately, I think it's my favourite season so far.
Should we talk about some trivia?
Yeah, alright.
Originally, this episode aired on the 8th of November 1968, around about the time that Richard Nixon was getting elected, I believe. Anton Leader directed the episode. This is his only work for the show, but he also directed episodes of The Twilight Zone, Hawaii Five-0, and The Virginian, amongst other things. He died in 1988 when he was 74. Hendrik Vollarts was the writer, and again, this was his only Star Trek work. He had a relatively prolific screenwriting career. He provided scripts for episodes of shows like Mike Hammer, Batman, and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He died in 1988 when he was 69, and his Batman episode introduced the villain known as the Bookworm, played by Roddy McDowall.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
He would go on to be a Columbo villain as well.
You would?
Catherine Woodville played Natira. This was her only Star Trek appearance.
When you think about Roddy McDowall and Columbo, what do you think of?
Tight pants.
Yeah.
She also showed up in series like The Saint, Mission Impossible, and Days of Our Lives, and she died in 2013 when she was 75. Her father-in-law was Eddie Albert, who was a villain in an early Columbo episode, Dead Weight.
Ah, yes. Now, there's also a second Columbo connection.
Yeah, I think her husband, did you say?
Yeah, Patrick Meany, who was very famous most famous for the Avengers, but lots of other things. Yeah, and he was the captain in Troubled Waters.
There you go. So 2 connections there. 3 in total so far. John Larmor played the old man who touched the sky. So he previously was Dr. Haskins in The Cage and Tamar in Return of the Archons with Landru.
Was he?
When we did that episode, I said I was going to save him in case we needed a Columbo connection the next time he showed up. He also appeared in shows like The Twilight Zone, The Virginian, and Little House on the Prairie, as well as portraying a hearing officer in the Columbo episode Lady in Waiting. So he's one of this week's connections as well. He died in 86 when he was 79. Byron Morrow played Admiral Vestervliet. I don't think we heard his name in the episode, but that's what he was called. He previously played a completely different Admiral, Admiral Comac, in Amok Time. And when we did that episode, I said I was saving him in case we needed a Columbo connection the next time that he showed up. And as it happens, we don't really...
Never rains, but...
he appeared in shows like Quincy M.E., Dallas, and The Love Boat, as well as one episode of Columbo where he played Amos Lawrence in A Friend Indeed, which is the same episode that Arlene Martell was in, who was in Amok Time with him before.
A Friend Indeed's a brilliant episode.
Yeah.
One of the best.
Morrow died in 2006 when he was 94, so plenty of Columbo connections in this one.
No relation to Vic Morrow?
I doubt it.
Okay.
The Oracle was voiced by James Doohan.
Ah, right.
Polycythemia is a real disease that causes the production of too many red blood cells but isn't terminal. Xenopolycythemia would be an alien variant of that illness. That's about it. In terms of international titles, the French opted for Au bout de l'infini, at the end of infinity. I'm not sure that makes any sense. I suppose their voyage might seem infinite. I don't know. Well, in Japan it was Ushu ni Tadio Waksagata Okusen, which means the planet-type spaceship which is floating in space.
Okay, fair enough. What have we got next week?
It's the 9th episode of Season 3, The Tholian Web, which is a pretty iconic episode.
For the wrong reasons, obviously. This is where it takes its
Nope,
sharp...
It's
No,
a classic.
another great one. Okay,
Yeah.
looking forward to that then.
It's going to be brilliant.
Until then,
Until then, cheerio.
bye-bye.